ようこそどうぞはじめまして
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. Possibly ever. I don't know.
In the history of man, you know, there's no medieval podcast or ancient Greek podcast that could possibly compare to this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a short window of history here we were competing with, and you know, we're up there, I think. But, anyway,
up until Elon Musk starts his own anime podcast.
Oh god, getting straight into it, huh?
I will gladly put our podcast against anything Elon Musk would be putting out, but
Be careful, he'll call you a paedophile.
anyway,
we all watch anime, so
Ouch.
Anyway, we have a fun show planned. We're continuing our kind of format change experiment here this week. So we're going to be rotating in some different shows to talk about with some different people. And so with me today, I have Iro.
hi.
We have Zig.
Hello.
And we have Aqua.
First discussion point of the day: is hentai important?
Sure, why not?
I feel like every word in that sentence needs to be defined before you can give an answer to that. I mean, like, let's say that it has fostered the career of many important manga artists over the years.
It's so important to Tsuburaya to walk back their guidelines.
Yes.
Are we counting?
Like,
Would we count Devilman Crybaby?
Devilman Crybaby is art.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
clearly art.
Oh yeah, sure.
I just watched that. Everyone out there listening recently, so that's
Yeah.
still on my brain for a bit. But anyways,
Definitely art. Before we begin,
How many pairs of scare quotes are on that word?
let's say not. Let's say so many that I would probably have trouble articulating them in a 2-hour podcast. But let's
Sure.
go. Also, before we start, I would like to say R.I.P. Missile the Dog. Basis of much loved Missile the Dog in Ace Attorney and Ghost Trick. You will be missed. R.I.P. Missile.
No.
Shutakumi's Pomeranian.
Yes, Shutakumi's
pouring out
Pomeranian,
for Missile. Yeah.
Indeed. You know.
It's a good thing the damn dog is dead, because now we can go back to making good games.
Ooh.
Ghost Trick's real good.
Ghost Trick is also like 10 years old.
It's true. I saw a tweet the other day that was like, everybody loves Ghost Trick, but nobody wants to spoil Ghost Trick, so everybody just tweets, play Ghost Trick, it's really good, and nothing else ever. Like, you can't say why Ghost Trick is good.
That's true.
By the way, listeners, you should play Ghost Trick.
I never did get around to that.
That iOS version is completely fine.
Yeah,
I played
that
it
was
on-
I had downloaded it and I just never got around to actually playing it. Someday, perhaps.
Is it still compatible with the current operating systems?
I think it went down for a while and then they updated it to being a
All right,
64-bit app.
I guess everybody
Um,
check that out. Okay, so a lot of things we want to talk about this episode, and I want to kick things off with a little bit of an update on the Crunchyroll Funimation HIDIVE situation, which continues to change by the minute, apparently.
I mean, just call it by what it is: betrayal.
Betrayal, top 10 anime betrayals.
Funimation,
but,
Funimation, and the quest for more money in another world with my big partner Sony or whatever.
Yeah. So, just this morning, Crunchyroll announced their own kind of dub initiative, which included shows dubbed by Funimation. So I don't know if they're going to continue to be working in some capacity together. I have no idea what's happening anymore.
There are only so many dub studios in the States.
How crazy
Yeah.
would it be if they're planning to redub that stuff? Like, how mad would that
No
be?
way.
No, they did specifically. I didn't really dig too deep into it, but they did say that some of them were being dubbed by Funimation specifically. So like, I don't think they're redubbing. I think they're just finding. Crunchyroll seems to be doing as much damage control in this situation as they possibly can, even though it's not really their fault, but they're obviously affected. but that seemed to be what this mostly looked like. I don't even know if it was really changing any of their current plans or whatever, but anyway, that's the latest bit of that. But what I did want to just confirm for everyone, what we do know for sure, is the Funimation shows have been removed from Crunchyroll. So all the backlog shows that they added, like Nichijou and my
Yu Yu
personal favorite,
Hakusho,
Good riddance.
Bimbo Gamiga,
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop.
Good riddance.
Yes, yeah, unpopular opinion, folks. Many of us here at the GLORIO blog think Cowboy Bebop is somewhat overrated at best, or perhaps very overrated at best.
It is still a very good show.
Yes.
But
This is not the conversation we want to be having right now.
Yeah. Anyway, let's keep this moving here. So Funimation shows have been removed from Crunchyroll. The Funimation channel has been removed from VRV. On the flip side, the HIDIVE channel has been added to VRV with the goal of having all of the HIDIVE shows available by the end of this month.
Cool.
And perhaps more interestingly, we are starting to see some of the shows being shared on both platforms, which they didn't announce was going to happen, but appears to be what they're doing. So HIDIVE announced that they are doing Run with the Wind, which is still currently airing on Crunchyroll, so you can watch it on both platforms. And Crunchyroll picked up some kind of odd random choices from the HIDIVE backlog. They've added Magic of Stella and Long Riders. I'm sure you guys remember those shows, right?
Long Riders? What?
that was the Cute Girls Ride Bikes show,
yes.
right?
I don't remember that at all.
Both of those shows were cute girl club comedies that were so generic that I literally copied and pasted the first looks to see if anybody was paying attention.
I mean, I did that for I did that for like Failure Night and Asterisk War or something.
I've done it. I think Magic of Stella was the first time I did it, and then I've been copying and pasting that first look on all these shows since then. And Long Riders was one of them. So that in itself, not super exciting, but this is kind of how they started the thing with Funimation, where they kind of randomly grabbed a couple shows, and then they started bringing more and more like actually good shows over.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of encouraging. We're one step closer to seeing Legend of the Galactic
I
Heroes.
was going to say, soon will we have Legend of the Galactic Heroes of Legend of GLORIO Heroes fame on Crunchyroll.
Yes, what the series is best known for, of course, is your podcast. But yeah, so again, a bit of a silver lining with the HIDIVE partnership, but sad to see those Funimation shows go, and we'll see how things continue to develop.
I'll be really interested to see if, like, because when Funimation and Crunchyroll entered this partnership, like, the idea was explicitly that Crunchyroll would do the licensing and Funimation would do the dubbing, basically. And I think I'm going to be interested to see if excuse me, sorry, if Funimation want to get back into like simulcasting stuff. Like
I would be shocked if they didn't.
Yeah, but doesn't that kind of go against their ethos to have like everything dubbed and presentable to an English speaking audience and stuff like that?
So one more thing that did get announced also either today or yesterday was kind of interesting. I didn't realize when they did this partnership, they pulled all the subtitled versions of those shows off of Funimation services, so you had to watch them on Crunchyroll. And they have now put them back on Funimation. So Funimation is back in the subtitle game, basically. So I would be shocked if they did not, moving forward, try to get back into licensing new shows as they come out.
So I wonder if,
especially with the Sony money behind them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if the play here is just that they're going to try and make Funimation into another Crunchyroll, basically, which is kind of how it was before,
Right. That's what they were trying to do, but now they have Sony money backing them.
Doesn't Sony bankroll Aniplex?
I believe they are an important, shareholders, maybe not the right word, but they are an influence in that company, I believe.
Right.
Mostly through the Sony Music stuff, I think.
Right.
Sure.
I haven't looked into it, but I don't know. The web of weird connections is getting bigger and bigger, and like you've got stuff like, you know, increasingly Japanese companies just saying fuck it, we'll do it ourselves in the US, and so far that's only been like super expensive Blu-ray sales so far, but
Yeah.
it's interesting to see. Like clearly, I think it's fair to say over the last 5 years especially, Japan has really realized that they can market pretty much anything they produce into the West in some form.
Yeah.
So
And now, like, you have more and more stuff showing up on, like, Netflix.
yeah, like Netflix obviously has a huge amount of money to throw around, so it's interesting times, as they say.
Yeah. So we'll see how that develops. Speaking of Netflix, our next thing I wanted to talk about, we were kind of debating whether this qualified for an anime podcast, but I think it's fair.
It's based on a Japanese property, I guess.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about season 2 of the Castlevania animated series, which is produced and exclusively available on Netflix.
Yes.
That came out since the past episode. As Iro said, it is a Japanese game series, and I think it's safe to say there is a fairly
They
heavy...
have it listed under anime.
There's a fairly heavy, like, 90s anime influence, even though it's not produced by a Japanese studio.
It is what we would have once referred to as anime-esque.
Sure. And this is the second set of episodes, so season 2. Ira, I think you've been following this closer.
Set of episodes is a very good description, because I wouldn't by any stretch of the imagination call this season.
Right, because how many episodes is it, right?
Dumb nomenclature. Like,
it's 8, but like Netflix has completely destroyed the idea of what a season is meant to be.
Right.
And like, that's coming from like a background of watching UK TV where a season is like 6 episodes.
Right.
But like the fact that Netflix released 4 episodes of Castlevania and called it season 1, and then released 8 episodes and called it season 2 is odd, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's basically just next batch of episodes. So
yeah.
Right.
Ira, I think you've been following this closer than anyone, so you want to give your hot takes on this next section?
It wasn't that bad. It was bad and was both bad and not bad.
Some parts were good and some parts were bad.
Yeah, weird. Probably the quote unquote main plot of these heroes are gonna go fight Dracula. Like, all the parts that dealt with that were pretty good. It's just the problem was, like, that is a small fraction of what season 2 is.
I think it's fair to say the problem with Castlevania season 2 is not so much how good is it, but how much of it there is.
Right. So I think I posted a tweet or something about this, but like 60, 70, 80% of all season 2 is a lot of talking between Dracula and Dracula's lieutenants about how do we kill all humans? Dracula ordered us to kill all humans. I guess we should kill all humans. What do you think about killing all humans? I think we should kill all humans this way. I think we should kill all humans this way. I think we should kill all humans this way. And it's just this pointless blathering for episodes and episodes and episodes that leads nowhere.
I mean, I would say that not only does it not lead anywhere, it actively harms the premise of the show, because it's very difficult to take Dracula and his army as like this primal force that is out to kill all humans, when they're mostly spending their time arguing about the logistics of killing all humans. Like, it's almost a comedy how, like, they've decided to commit genocide and then they just cannot decide how to commit genocide, despite the fact that they presumably have like an army of thousands of flesh-eating monsters at their disposal.
Right.
It's just bizarre.
There's
like
a Monty Python sketch in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like they watched Game of Thrones or something and were like, oh, what makes the show good is like politics and wheeling and dealing and talking. A lot of talking. So let's put all that in, and people will think it's good, and I guess it worked, because people are saying season 2 is good, and parts of it are good, but not those parts.
Like this is what it's 8 episodes, right?
Yeah.
You could conceivably cut this to 2 episodes. And
Yeah.
I don't think you
This
would.
should have.
That's a bad.
This should have been 2 episodes of all the fights just appended onto the end of the 4 episodes of season 1.
I would like to point out, however, if it was cut to 2 episodes, we would lose the undoubted highlight of the season, which is Peter Goddamn Stamare playing an evil Viking vampire trying to say fuck in as many different ways as he possibly can. It's incredible.
That is pretty fun.
So let me ask.
Go ahead.
Are these related to the games at all, other than just having Dracula?
Yeah.
Are they based on specific?
These seasons have been based on Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, which is kind of the first Castlevania game that had any resemblance of plot other than Simon Belmont kills Dracula, because it has multiple playable characters, and so you can kind of jimmy together
But no
somewhat workable plot.
no Grant Dynasty though.
No Grant Dynasty. The worst part of season 2 is they did not put Grant Dynasty in. I will not stand for the systematic removal of Grant Dynasty from Castlevania canon.
I think
I don't know what you're talking about. He was in Castlevania Judgment.
Oh,
You just know. You know exactly what to say to wound me the most.
so I think one of the most interesting things about this is, in fact, like how much reverence they pay to the source material. Because although like Castlevania 3 barely had a plot because it was an NES game, and they follow that basic plot but embellish it greatly, obviously. But there's tons and tons of like weird in-jokes or nods or like explicit references to older Castlevania and newer Castlevania games. So like both of Dracula's big lieutenants in this series are characters from Curse of Darkness, which is a PS2 game, and nobody remembers the Castlevania PS2 game. It was kind of correct me if I'm wrong, Iro, but it was kind of a pseudo sequel to Castlevania 3.
Yeah.
And like there's tons of like references and like nods and winks and like background features and stuff like that. Like, clearly the people who made this cared about the games.
Recognizable enemies from the games show up. Like Slogger and Gaimon show up. Karasu Band shows up.
Yep. They play Bloody Tears.
That's right. They finally pulled actual Castlevania music for the show for one scene.
So when are they doing Symphony of Night? Is that next?
Season 3 has been confirmed, but like I don't know what it's supposed to be.
The ending of season 2 seems to strongly imply that they're going to tell an original story centered around some of those Curse of Darkness characters.
That would be. I guess you're right. That would be dumb. I don't know.
I mean, like they totally set that up, right?
Yeah, I feel like the strength of Castlevania is being able to just jump 100 years later and have totally new stuff. But
I think what everybody would want them to do would be to do like the 1-2 punch of Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night, which are like the two most famous and storied Castlevania installments. But also like once you've done Symphony of the Night, that's kind of as high as you can go in terms of Castlevania stuff. So
could always make an original story about the War of 1999.
All right, let's
look at it this way. Look at it this way. There are only 2 characters in that show I want to see again, and they're the exact 2 characters that are not going to return next season.
Who are they?
Trevor and Sypha.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. What about Peter Stamare? I'd watch a Peter Stamare spin-off where he's just like drinking a lot and talking about how he wants to have sex with vampires and saying fuck a lot, basically.
Everyone in that show just says fuck all the time.
Yes, indeed.
Even Alucard.
Like, I think like the key strengths from season 1 remain in that like they nail the characterization pretty well. Like I like Alucard a lot because he's just an unbearable git, and that's like precisely the kind of characterization you want in Alucard. And like Trevor and Cypher and everybody are all fine. Like one of my biggest problems with it though is that like it is perhaps the least threatening version of Dracula ever. He just sits around in his sad room being sad all the time, and like it's a little underwhelming. Like they get it together for the end where he has like a cool fight, but it's definitely also like spoilers. Dracula does not transform into like an 8-headed beast.
Oh yeah, that's kind of bullshit.
Which is kind of bullshit. Let's be honest.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
it's worth a watch, especially if you enjoy the games.
yeah, it seems to have enough of a kind of fun reference factor, I guess.
There's some fun
Yeah.
fan servicey stuff in there, you know, like I said, the references and the nods and winks and jokes, all that kind of
Just
stuff.
no Grant and Nasty somehow. Anyway, yeah, so we'll see how the next block goes, but yeah,
Be prepared to wait like another 2 years or something.
it hasn't been that long since the first one, right?
No,
it's been a
Maybe
year-ish.
year-ish.
It's been like 18 months.
So we'll see. All right. Next thing I wanted to talk about, I wanted to revisit something we talked about last week, or last episode, I should say. It's been 2 weeks. When we were talking about Surune, I said some mean things about Kyoto Animation. Mostly in regards to how I feel like their most recent projects have been kind of empty and soulless, and how, I'm not sure, some of the new staff they've brought on seem to be, that's almost like they have a factory of directors that are cranking out these kind of big and empty projects. And, Aqua, you had a couple of counterpoints on the post after that went up that I thought might be worth talking about. So you want to kind of share your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a couple of things, right? First of all, I think there's the things that I just think are that we're only looking at them from the perspective of the now. That people say Kyoto Animation show now is not good. Their previous show was not good, and therefore ultimately conclude that they have been bad for quite some time now. Which is something I disagree with, because if you look at Kyoto Animation's actual cinematography, not cinematography, I mean, back catalog, bibliography, whatever. This kind of soulless, melancholy show has never been their formula. People only call it their formula now because they've made 2 shows in a row that are like that. If you look at the show they made before Violet Evergarden, that was Dragon Maid, which was anything but that. Dragon Maid, also not a show I liked, but it was not this formula.
Right, and you have stuff like Tamako Market,
not this formula. All of this stuff. I mean, if there's any formula KyoAni had at one point, it is quirky, clumsy girls doing cute things. So this idea that they all make these beautiful, majestic, sweeping, melancholy shows about apathetic teenagers, that's just a very recent thing. That just happens to be the 2 most recent shows they've done. But I don't think there is any formula to detect here at all. Second of all, speaking of the back catalog, I think Kyoto Animation are generally held to a higher standard than other studios are. There is no other studio we expect to deliver an instant classic every single time they produce something. If you look at Gainax, even like original Gainax at the height of their popularity, they made a lot of jobbing stuff. Like they jobbed.
Nobody talks about their like random shit. Like
no one talks about
ugly beautiful worlds. Yeah.
No one talks about Hanamaru Kindergarten.
To be fair, that was once we already knew Gainax had fallen apart.
Yes, that was late Gainax indeed.
No, wait, Hanamaru Kindergarten was actually before Bandy and Stocking was
yes,
off. Oh, God.
It was. So the point is, they need to job. They need to job even more than other studios do because they actually pay their employees a fair wage.
Yes.
So obviously they need to pay the bills. They need to get bread, or in this case, rice on the table. And for that, you sometimes need to pick up a project that you can't put everything into, that you can't put one of your A-list directors on, And that is the opportunity to train some new people, or to give that guy who you have under contract, who you know isn't very good, but he's under contract, so you need to give him something. I'm not mentioning any names here.
You
But-
mean definitely not the name of the guy who directed Myriad Colors Phantom World, then?
I'm not saying anything. But you have to give them, their project. And for people to say, KyoAni are bad now, based on the fact that they have been doing these kinds of projects as of late, all the while completely ignoring that they have been making fantastic movies that have been critically acclaimed all over the board, which people generally don't pay attention to because they only air in Japan or in theaters here, and so they're not part of the general streaming market.
I don't know how much critical acclaim the Chunibyo movie got, but yes.
No, in this case, I'm mostly talking about Silent Voice and Liz and the Bluebird.
Yeah. So let me just respond to some of that, because I think that's all very true and fair. So I think what the issue is the perception based on the amount of time it's taking for them to get stuff out. So if you look at like all the shows we talked about, and the part of it is the movie factor, like you said, because the movies, we're all kind of disconnected from the movies because of how they're released. And also, it's just a movie is just less content than a series. And if you put out one or two movies at 90 minutes a piece per year, that's not the same as putting out 4 12-episode series. And their TV content, if you look at the past couple years, if you go back to 2015, the only show they made was Sound Euphonium. 2016, I think they only did like 2 shows. 2017, Dragon Maid was the only show they did, and that was like at the beginning.
Yes,
Dragon Maid was almost 2 years ago.
I think that is the reality of the industry. If we want fair practice, if we want people to get properly paid for the work they do, if we don't want them to have to work impossible schedules and work impossible deadlines, this is what it's going to look like. A studio makes 1 or 2 anime per year. And I think that's probably, it's the same thing with the whole Red Dead Redemption AAA games controversy. It's got me thinking a lot that maybe this kind of game, like Red Dead Redemption, simply isn't possible without people being exploited. And if we don't want people to be exploited, we're going to have to sacrifice that and settle for something less impressive.
I mean, let me give my response to that, which is, firstly, I think you're absolutely right in that regard. But it's difficult because, I'm trying to separate Kyoto Animation, the studio, the entity, the employer of a large number of people, from Kyoto Animation, the person who makes the cartoons we're talking about, if that makes sense. I don't have an issue with Kyoto Animation, KyoAni's move towards a higher quality, less regular schedule. I don't have an issue with their focus on movies. The key thing I'm trying to express here is that I personally am not interested in the direction that the studio is taking, and that's a very important distinction, because it doesn't mean that I don't support them, and it doesn't mean that the work isn't good. The only other thing I would say is that you're absolutely right. KyoAni have not made that many sad, meaningful teenagers looking for purpose in life stuff, but we kind of all immediately assumed that they had, and that tells you something, right? I feel that the house style is kind of embedded more than just the very specific tropes of Sarune. It's more. Sorry, please go on.
No, I think it's more like a thing of this is people see something and it meets their expectations, not because it's something they're used to from KyoAni, but because it's something they can see KyoAni making in their it's not I've seen them make this exact show before, but
it's more of course they'd make something like that.
Well, basically.
And I think that comes from I think this might have been where Zig was headed. Those things that we criticize, like Surune 4, are things that have been in other KyoAni shows for many years now. Like, you can go back to, like, K-On! Season 2, and they have that kind of melancholy kind of stuff going on. But there's other things that kind of gave the show more personality, whereas Surune is kind of like the ultimate endpoint for all that. So we've seen those things before, and it feels like we've been heading in this direction, and perhaps maybe only the last 2 shows have really been, that's like the most notable feature of the show or whatever. But
and I think it is more noticeable because KyoAni are actually one of the few studios that have a distinct personality. You can immediately recognize a KyoAni anime, whether it is a comedy or a drama or whatever.
And just as a corollary to that, I butchered that. They're one of the few studios who are prominent enough among the fan base to have their name ahead of a show's title rather than underneath it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think in that regard, I always have to bring up the comparison with Trigger, because Trigger are the only other studio that have this kind of impact in the West and are also have a certain style you associate them with, even though not every single show they make is the same, but you can still look at a Trigger show and say, oh yes, of course, this is definitely something Trigger would make. And in that regard, I often experience, and this is maybe a personal, like that people give KyoAni flack for the same stuff they praise Trigger for.
I mean, it's because Trigger are quote unquote doing cool shit.
Yeah, that is the thing. That is the exact thing I'm talking about. When people say, KyoAni always make the same show, what they're actually saying is KyoAni doesn't make the show that I want to see. They indeed do not make the kind of show that Trigger makes, but they do make a wide variety of shows that are not that, but are also not the same.
I mean, like, I would like to push back a little bit, which is, as someone who is perhaps not Trigger's hugest fan, like, I feel like they've made maybe 1 or 2 good shows tops, and like who liked a lot of KyoAni work and continues to like a lot of KyoAni work. I do feel that recent KyoAni shows have not been great, and again, we are talking.
That is true.
Yeah, and so like it's always difficult. Like, we're trying to walk the line between these critiques are unfair, but these critiques are fair, if that makes sense. And everything you're saying is right, but also I haven't enjoyed some of the shows recently, and both of those things can be true at the same time.
Yes, that is true, and I think that those things. One thing does not cause the other. I think the cause for the decline, if I can call it that. I wouldn't say it's a decline in quality, more like the show's not gelling with us, or just
let's put some heavy inverted commas around decline.
Yeah. I mean, that is due, I think, to 2 things. One is kind of a brain drain, as in most of their talents are moving on to movies, and this is the new staff doing stuff. And 2, I've noticed that a lot of the lesser KyoAni shows are based on light novels that have won their award.
Yeah,
I was going to bring that up.
Whereas the better ones are based on outside material, on stuff that already existed. So by handing out this award, they're basically like, the prize for that award is basically your show gets turned into a KyoAni show.
Yeah, I think
they need to give all these rookie projects, like someone's first light novel that they turned in for this award. And I guess between all of this isekai shit, this is the best thing out of all of this. But then it suddenly gets the big budget KyoAni treatment, so everyone keeps thinking that it's like, whoa, this is like the hot new thing in Japan.
Maybe
it's probably not.
Maybe if Violet Evergarden had been like a mid-tier show produced by like Silverlink or something, we would have been like, this is
we're bumping up Silverlink to mid-tier.
I love actually a lot.
Let's be fair and say A1 Productions or something.
I feel like A1.
A1's pretty high up there in terms of production. But,
I mean, they made noted smash hit "Darling in the Franxx." So, but you know what I mean. Like, we would be we would definitely be more impressed if Violet Evergarden had not come with the hype of the next big KyoAni show, like the serious, meaningful KyoAni show. You know, the KyoAni show that is not about a team of high schoolers. You know, it might have been easier to overlook its flaws if it had been a pleasant surprise rather than a slight, like a highly hyped and subsequent slight disappointment.
Yeah, so it's a blessing and a curse, and for those new projects, I don't think it does them any favors.
Yeah,
their only original has been Tamako Market.
Yes,
like everything
if
else.
You look at the stuff they've done.
On
all
everything
of
else is based
stuff
on
Violet Evergarden, Beyond the Boundary, Myriad Colors, Phantom World, like all of the bad stuff, Tsurune, and like all of the more successful stuff, like Dragon Maid, and especially Sound Euphonium, was based on long-running popular manga and novels that already existed.
I mean, I also think it's fair to say that like KyoAni's transformation of any given work is extremely high. Like they are truly adapting works rather than just regurgitating them, if that makes sense. Like, especially like for some of the, let's say, more throwaway material. I mean, I'm thinking especially of K-On! Here. But
K-On!, Lucky Star, like
where they basically transformed
all of their stuff.
Yeah, they transformed the entire like nature of those shows into something A, much more suitable for animation, but also B, like much more impressive than the stuff they were based on.
I mean, probably Nichijou too. Now, Nichijou is probably the show that has evolved the most compared to its manga.
I mean, especially because I feel like many of the jokes in Nichijou are reliant on like incredibly good cinematography.
Yeah, the actual anime is adapting the manga pretty closely. I think it's just that that's a show that needs to be animated. Like that's like so much of it comes from the visuals.
I mean, I guess like,
but yeah,
to just try and wrap up this this argument, like I think our criticisms of KyoAni on the last episode were probably a bit unfair, but they're coming from a place of real frustration, and that is that like it does feel like regardless of whether like the argument about a house style or making the same show again is like facetious or accurate, you know, it definitely feels like on TV at least KyoAni have fallen into a groove of nicely produced but perhaps not especially meaningful shows. Does that sound like a fair critique there, so to speak?
Yeah, I would say so. Then again,
I just feel like I would like to see them flex their artistic muscle a little more, is what I'm saying. And I don't mean in terms of animation, because their products have always looked magnificent, but I feel like I would like to, I mean, like, not to cannibalize our conversation from later, but we were talking about the comparison between Kyoto Animation and Trigger, and Trigger have tried to move beyond their accepted house style with Gridman to a certain extent, and I think it's one of their most interesting works in years. And
it is number one their most interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I'm not necessarily saying I need Kyoto Animation to produce like a super robot show or anything, but I would be interested to see them flex that talent in areas that they have not traditionally been strong in. And again, that's just me.
Offer themselves up to Kunihiko Ikuhara, basically.
Oh my god,
that would work.
I feel like Ikuhara directing a Kyoto Animation show.
All right.
Dream combo, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, enough about Tsurune.
Yeah, I'll just add one final thought, and just that, you know, I have historically, arguably, been the biggest defender of Kyoto Animation out of our group in the past, and
you even like their noted black sheep Nichijou.
Well, that aside, the so like I think you put it well, Zig, in that some of those comments are maybe coming more from frustration, because I have liked their stuff in the past, and I want to see them make good material. Like, I don't want to have to say those things. So, you know, hopefully we'll have to see what other projects. I don't even know if they have anything announced currently outside of the movie stuff right now, but we'll see how it goes.
I think it's just
I think it's another one of their light novel awards thing.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Great. So we'll see how that goes then. But anyway, let's move on. We got a lot more to talk about. let's start talking about some of the actual current shows that we're watching, and we'll start with Bloom Into You, and so you guys have not seen episode 6, which just aired like 2 days ago or something like that.
Yesterday.
I have.
No, unfortunately, we have not.
I have, so we'll kind of dance around that a little bit, but otherwise,
I mean, I know what happens, but
well, you've read the manga, right, Aqua?
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But yeah. So since we've last talked, I feel like the show maybe is the moment to the kind of like plot points from episode to episode are not super important, but in general,
No, this is the big mood show of the season.
yeah, in general, we've seen you decide to join the student council. We met Maki-kun, who's the biggest shipper in the show, except for maybe Yu's sister. I don't know.
Oh, there will be even bigger shippers down the line. Don't worry.
Wonderful. And we had Toko Senpai insisting on starting up a stage play for the school festival for unknown reasons that are touched on in episode 6. So
also, we saw Iro as a little anime girl.
that seems to happen every now and then. But yeah, so as Iro was saying, I think the show's been pretty solid so far, but I want to hear what you guys think. So, how are you guys feeling about the show?
I'm still weirded out by seeing like the weight of Troika's like big budget like look thrown behind like a romance show. Because I associate Troika so strongly with like I'll Know Zero and Recreators, which are like huge, big budget shows that are completely terrible.
Is there anything you would say is distinctive about the style that you recognize in Bloom Into You?
It's like a cinematography thing. I don't know. I don't know how to put it.
It's very well animated and very well directed. I don't know if it's like in a particularly distinct way to that studio, but it's one of those things it when you see it, like in terms of quality. There were a lot of kind of neat cinematic tricks too in episode 6 that they were doing with the directing and like kind of showing the characters isolated and then coming together and stuff like that. But I guess you guys will see that when you watch episode 6. But
I'll say that I have enjoyed the show a great deal more over the past 2 or 3 episodes. Now that they've clarified a little the precise relationship between the various characters, and we've been able to get down to like some good, solid, actual character drama. And I feel like, and you'd expect this from a character-focused show, of course, but as we've grown to learn the characters a bit more, grown to learn their quirks, I feel like the writing has become more confident. There's been like better jokes, better emotional scenes, and I just feel that whereas I was kind of like at the beginning after episode 2, I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. I'm now definitely solidly like, okay, I like this. I want to see more of this.
Aqua, how
my like worry. So go ahead.
How would you say it's stacking up with your expectations, having read the?
I mean, wow, this is now that I think about it, this is actually pretty much the first time I've not been disappointed with a show based on a manga I really like. Everything works, so all of the nuance from the manga is in there, and the performances are great and stuff like that. But I think what sets this apart from, for instance, because the Ancient Magus Bride also had all this, it was exactly the manga that I love, yet nevertheless there wasn't this spark, this magic. And that's because this adaptation actually dares to be its own thing. It tries to come up with new perspectives from a cinematographic viewpoint, because most of the dialogue is the exact same as in the manga. But from a cinematographic viewpoint, this tries a lot of new stuff, tries to be its own thing. In episode 5, they introduced some like cute, cartoony stuff. I think that episode was outsourced to Pine Jam.
Pine Jam is
so
very good at that.
Being all
yes.
dorky and
I
making like her cute, clowny faces and being all fidgety. And that's a side of the character you don't really, or isn't so pronounced in the manga, and I like that they highlight it here. So I think it's definitely like a step up from the manga. The only way in which it falls behind on the source material is that they're never going to be able to finish it, and I wouldn't for the life of me know where they can realistically stop.
Is the manga done, by the way?
No, the
Okay.
manga is not done, but they have like reached a point now where I would be comfortable saying, okay, you can end that anime there. That would be a good ending. But they're not gonna reach that point at this pace. Like, they're not gonna get there. So I'm just wondering, where are they going to stop? Because if they continue like this, we might not even see the play.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, that's some pacing.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Like, I feel like they could always fashion an anime original ending. Right? I know that's not cool these days, but you could do it.
But the problem is, this is a show that gains so much from being slow paced, from the characters. I mean, it's called Bloom Into You, it's called very slowly falling in love, because that's the whole thing with Yu's character, right?
Right, yes.
I know that there's a lot of people can identify with it, like the idea that you need to get to know someone truly in order to be able to be attracted to them.
I mean, I feel like that is how romance actually works in real life. Right?
Yeah.
You are not attracted to people you barely know for the most part.
Yeah. But I don't know, some people would disagree, I guess, because there's a whole other term for this, but whatever, let's not go into that. But yeah, I mean, that is the show's main strength. That is what it is about. It is about not like the I don't want to discredit other shows here, but shallow romance you see in most stories, where the initial spark is like, oh, this guy is kind of hot, or hey, this girl is kind of cute, and I guess I'm in love with him or her now. Whereas this is really like chronicling that idea of getting to know someone, getting to form a unique bond that only you two as individuals could have, and from there on realizing that you cannot imagine your life without that person anymore. I think this show does this franchise does a very good show/manga do a very good job at portraying that.
I very much like the idea that like, and again, I feel like the fact that this wasn't originally clear is part of the reason why I was a bit uncertain on those early episodes. But like the idea that you is the main girl, right? Yeah, like that she's not necessarily immediately attracted to the other girl, but she's not necessarily repulsed either. She's just kind of clumsily trying to feel her way out as to like what she feels and what's appropriate to do and what's not appropriate to do, and like the fact that she doesn't have an epiphany immediately, but all of these things are great. I'm really invested in the idea of like a long-term character arc like that, and I think like I said, that is much more realistic to the way people naturally form relationships, whether it's romantic or just friendship. You don't necessarily immediately like fall absolutely into sync with people. You need to learn their idiosyncrasies. You need to find out the things, and even the people you like and even the people you love, there's still plenty of things you find annoying or like irritating about them. And I think this show is doing a great job of portraying that slow learning process as part of establishing a relationship. And I think it helps as well that like there are allowed to be characters other than the main two girls, and like to a certain extent Yu is trying to establish, like there's like jealous senpai, and there's like what's the name of the boy who just likes to
Maki-kun.
like she's not quite sure how to interact with them either, and they don't fall into easy stereotypes for the most part. And I think the show is very good at showing that, like, whether these people will ultimately be friends or, like, I don't want to say foes, but you know what I mean, like, that, like, you have to get to learn them before you can make a definitive judgment on that. I think that is the thing the show is really good at.
Yeah, I mean, based on the the thing with the early episodes is kind of a twofold thing. Like, first of all, the show is kind of set up like a mystery. Almost like, no, I mean, like, the first show ends with, it's almost like it ends with a murder, you know. A corpse falls out of the closet, who did it? And now it's like, oh, whoa, this girl just confesses out of nowhere. Why? How come? What's her reason, right?
I mean, like, just to quickly butt in, but we talked about this a lot on the last episode we were both on, but the idea that, like, it has to trade off of stereotypical Yuri tropes to get anywhere is kind of a disservice to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to disservice the show, but I think...
No, I wasn't implying you were. I was implying that the fact that, like, it has to start like that is a disservice to how interesting it actually becomes.
But that's the problem when you're operating in a genre that is so, I think, fragile. No, I mean,
my worry has been
as in character, as in the readership has certain expectations,
right?
And once you start to divert from those expectations, you might have the risk of implying things that people don't like, and you're treading very, very.
My worry is that it'll just fall back into those at some point, and like have things. I don't know, like based on how the show's gone so far, I don't think it will. I just, like, there's the, like, thought in the back of my mind that, like, once the relationship reaches a certain point, it will just become, like, generic faff. You know? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, that's also a worry I have, but they've been doing a pretty good job.
The last couple of episodes have been exceptionally strong. I really like them.
I mean, and if there's any show that can prove that two characters can still be interesting after they've hooked up and become a couple, I put a lot of faith into this show being that show, you know?
Yeah. That's encouraging.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
If there's one criticism I'd throw in there, and maybe this is just me having a short attention span, but I do feel like it gets a little dry when they get into, like, the student council stuff. Like, I feel like there was one episode in particular where there was just, like, way too much hot paperwork filing action going on.
I think I would agree with that.
And it's kind of it's not like that all the time, but there have been a couple episodes where I felt like it was a bit of a drag, and the highlight moments were a little fewer and far between than I would have liked. But I mean, any show where they're of this type where it's focused on characters and, you know, not so much plot.
I guess you need a sort of frame of reference, or like something they can do, or like have small talk about that in order to frame the characters. I guess I don't know. I mean, I get where
it's
you're
almost
coming
unavoidable.
From.
So I mean, and I don't think it's to the degree that it makes the show unwatchable or something, but just some episodes of it like that.
They basically introduce that play to get rid of it, like that at that point once they start working on the play becomes the, like, go-to metaphor / it's the framing device for all of the character development stuff.
I feel like it is specifically the student council bit, because in Irozuku, I have a weirdly specific thing for photography, obviously, but I feel like the fact that they center all their stuff around, like, a club where people are, like, doing something and having fun makes that sort of, like, meat and potatoes dialogue a bit more interesting than the student council stuff, which A, is kind of boring, and B, we don't have any frame of reference for, because obviously none of us have ever served on a Japanese high school student council.
Yeah,
and even if we did, student council is not exactly the most exciting topic to devote screen time to. But
You're basically an unpaid narc. Is what you are.
No, that's the disciplinary committee.
That's a wing of the student council.
Yeah,
I
sure.
guess.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I think Zig was trying to set up a transition for our next show, which
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Sure.
is Irozuku, The World in Colors. I am not watching the show at all, so you guys are going to have to kind of take the lead on where we're at with this. But based on the episode titles, did she find her grandmother in the past? Is that where we're at?
Yep, her manic pixie dream grandma. Like,
How
Can I
are you-
start?
That might be the episode
Yeah, go
title for this. But yes.
Okay, first of all, this show is just Haruhi.
Kind of,
it
yeah.
is, isn't it?
Yes. I mean,
Ah.
Grandma is kind of Haruhi. Oh, slightly less shitty version of Haruhi.
I don't know. She sent her granddaughter back in time irreversibly.
I think
Well,
it's
they're still not very clear on that.
future grandma and current grandma are very different characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Aqua.
I mean, this is a fairly, I don't know, bog standard, indeed, manic pixie dream girl kind of show, except with friendship instead of romance. It has all of the trappings of a wait. It has all of the trappings of a standard PA work show, which is artistic hobby gets used as beautiful framing device, and pair the spares. Oh, the pair the spares.
Right, like all the side characters are designed in pairs so that they can pair off inevitably at the end. Right?
Yes.
Like,
We were just talking about how unfair it is that we like typecast Kyoto Animation, but I want to be clear: typecasting PA Works is absolutely 100%
Yes.
accurate. They have like
Yes.
3 different shows they make. Like one of them is like spunky high school girls or young adults like try and take over a failing business or run like like one of
No, that is exactly it.
I know,
Yeah.
that's why I'm
What-
laughing.
like one of them is like the weird pining high school romance come drama, which is what this is, and the third one is Sirius the Jaeger.
Don't forget the eccentric family.
I always forget that
might-
that show is a PA
I
work
feel
show
like-
because it doesn't quite feel like a
Yeah, because it doesn't look like a PA work show.
Well, because it has,
It is the Dragon Maid of PA works.
but anyway, like, sorry, Aqua, you were saying.
No, I think I mean that's like my main gripe with this show. The paradispersiness is very obvious, and it is kind of a problem because the side characters haven't really been all that well developed, aside from the fact that they are nice to main girl, and
Like-
they're sort of quirky and they tease each other, but they're sort of interchangeable.
Like,
I hope they
One
flesh them
might
out
say
a bit.
boring.
Yeah.
I would kind of extend that criticism to almost all the characters, to be honest. And I don't mean that to be as damning an indictment as it sounds, but like, I think this show is like well written, beautifully animated. I think that like the basic story stuff is not terrible, but I don't think they're doing a good job of characterization. And I kind of like have the opposite issue to you. I think Aqua. I don't think Main Girl is very interesting. I actually.
Oh no,
I-
no. I mean, but at least she has a thing, you know.
But her thing
Like,
is so nebulous, and like they don't
yeah.
thing with it. Like, it's again like they've established that she literally cannot see color, and like, but is she depressed about that? Kind of, maybe, but like there's no sort of attempt to dig into how this affects her psyche. And also, like, I'd be kind of remiss if I'm mentioning plenty of people are colorblind in the real world, and I'm not going to say it's not a big deal because I'm not in their shoes, but they certainly don't let it get in the way of them leading an active and normal life.
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, this show was would have been way better if the cannot see color was just a blatant fucking metaphor for depression. But it isn't.
Right.
She literally cannot see color, and she's sad about that.
Like they kind of just don't like she's not like they haven't made any attempt to develop her character. She's still just sort of sad and bewildered a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, I think the stuff about her meeting the grandma and, like, learning magic with the grandma to, like, accept that part of herself that she doesn't really like is way more interesting than the I'm colorblind but can only see color through this one dude's pictures,
Yeah.
which seems like a total incidental side plot to the she learns to accept herself plot. Like,
a PA work show that is trying to be a slice of life romance, but they put a bunch of weird sci-fi magic bullshit onto it.
The sci-fi magic stuff's more interesting, though, is why.
Like, one of the things I will say is that I think the show has become considerably more interesting since Genki Grandma turned up, because like she injects a certain amount of energy, which is like you could conceivably describe most PA work shows as sleepy, let's say. You know, even when they're not actually set in sleepy small town Japan, they tend to be highly reminiscent of sleepy small town Japan. And like the appearance of Genki Grandma has done two things. One, it's given like the show a bit of a shot in the arm in terms of like energy and like some simple but effective visual gags and stuff like that. And two, like I said, it has actually given what's Mango's name?
Hitomi.
Sorry. Like it actually has given her an objective beyond the sort of nebulous, I guess I should try and like convince this dude to help me see colors again, you know. And for that reason, I thought the last episode we saw, which was episode 5, not the just aired episode 6, was one of the better ones, because like you had like they had the party, which meant that you got all the character.
The party was so dumb.
I mean,
sorry. Okay, so there's this whole subplot about how one of the side girls likes one of the other guys. But oh no, that she thinks that guy likes the main character who can't see color. And so they have this party, and she makes like these colorful rabbit cookies because she likes rabbits. And then the boys bring their stuff to the party, which is all just like fried food. So it's like French fries and like
big
fried chicken and fried stuff. And I'm like, oh, it's because they're dumb guys and they like to eat fried food. That's fine. But then the girl gets mad because she's like, oh no, all this food is brown. That means that he's trying to be considerate to the colorblind girl by making all the food one shade. And that means he likes her and not me. And I'm going to be so mad about this.
And also like they're playing like, you know, oh, like sad, like, you know, rabbit girl loves her childhood friend, but she's worried about like damaging their existing relationship, so she'll never confess to him, which is like one of the most cliched plot lines you can possibly play. And they do that, but it's not done terribly. Like, you know, there's care and attention given to like the framing of scenes and the acting and the like dialogue, which make it. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like the production value of this show lifts it above average.
Sure.
I'm not saying that as a backhanded compliment, because I don't mean it's just, oh, PA works make things look pretty. I think that like there's a care given to, like I said, the scripting, the framing, like just the general dialogue.
I think all the production stuff is like really good. I just am continuously baffled by the actual content of the show.
It's certainly kind of weird.
I do love how magic is like shown in this
super mundane.
Where it is basically like it's like how we treat magic in our world, like stage magic, like magic tricks. Like, oh, I have this friend and he knows magic. Ooh, come on, Bob, can you make some sparks? Wow.
But where did the lighter fluid come from?
Yeah, that is how magic is portrayed.
My family runs a magic shop down the road.
You go to the magic shop and you buy some like magic powder that can like make fireworks. Ooh.
It feels like an evolution of some of the stuff I liked in the Ancient Magus' Bride, where like there it was like we're using magic to solve relatively mundane problems, and here it's like everyone is using magic to solve relatively mundane problems, because there is no shroud, there is no secret. You know, magic is out.
But don't forget, there's also future stuff, and
this show is probably like they had two ideas. Like, what if we make sleepy teenage romance in a world where magic is mundane and time travel from the future, and then smash them together?
Two great tastes that don't go great together.
I like it still. Like, I think that I would never describe it as like a masterpiece or the best show of the season or anything, but it's cute and it's fun, and like I said, those high production values do an awful lot.
It is the comfort food show of this season for me.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify for anybody listening and not familiar with the show, when we were referring to Genki grandmas, this is because the main character has gone back in time and has met her grandmother as a teenager in school, and not literally an old woman bouncing around and acting like Haruhi, which,
I don't know that.
to be honest,
That'd
I
be a good
probably would be more interested in watching that show, but yeah, just want to clarify that for everyone. But yeah, this sounds like a pretty
So I have been watching an old Super Robot show recently, Neketsu Saikyo Gozawa, and in it, in one of the early episodes, all the school children joined together to battle a mysterious master gamer who showed up at the local arcade, and of course it's one of their grandmas, and it's just absolutely fantastic. I'm just putting that out there, it's amazing. Anyway, sorry, please continue.
yeah. So
I don't think we need to continue after that.
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I really don't have a good transition out of that one, to be honest. Something about magic, I don't know, because the next show,
Yeah, magic and technology intersecting also happens in.
see, Iro, this is why I need you on every podcast. You can find the connection here, but yeah, let's move on. Let's have some fun and talk
Let's
about
talk about a
certain
bad
magical
show
index.
instead.
Yeah, let's talk about certain Magical Index season 3,
so
which is indeed
I will
terrible
start
show.
this with a confession, which is I've not actually yet managed to watch any more of a certain magical index because
Praise be for
there
that.
are a lot of demands on my time, and index is not especially high on my list of
No,
priorities,
yeah.
despite the fact that I enjoyed what I've seen so far.
Well, let me fill you in then. You haven't missed much. We've moved on to another arc. So episode 3 kind of wrapped up the first intro arc, where Toma beats Terra of the Left, who ends up being super lame, and we leave we leave Toma and C tier waifu Itsuwa back in Avignon, and we
I honestly cannot remember where she came from.
she was part of the Amakusa church with anyway, she's not important. She's like the least. She's so low on Toma's harem bench that doesn't matter. But so we move on to the next arc, and I think it's worth pointing out for anybody not familiar with Index that the series has maybe 3 or 4 main characters that they kind of bounce around to, and I would say maybe 2 out of every 3 arcs is about Toma, but every now and then you'll get one that has absolutely nothing to do with him. And this next arc is one of those. So the next arc is about, as the title of episode 4 puts it, the dark side of Academy City, where we
finally, we see the dark side of Academy City after their plot arcs about human cloning and mass murder and breaking the laws of reality. And
well, this is specifically about the various underground shady organizations with dumb names, my personal favorite group known as Group. We also see the return of Item, last seen as the villains of Railgun Season 2. What are some of the other ones?
Study here?
No, Study does not appear, but School is very prominent in this one.
I think Study are
Fuck
from
me.
Railgun.
And we also see Member and one other.
Really?
I don't even remember the other one. They weren't really that important. Member has a few rogue members that are trying to kill Aleister Crowley. I don't know, but anyway, all these organizations are kind of going at it. This might have been, storytelling wise, one of the worst arcs I've ever seen in the series, and that's saying a lot. I had very little idea what was going on, and no explanation is given as to what any of these groups' motivations are, other than basically the group known as Group is trying to stop everybody from getting to Aleister Crowley, who is the
So, isn't he a famous occult something
Yes.
or other?
He is a famous magic person or whatever, but he is also in the Index universe the founder and leader, I guess, of Academy City, the science
I mean,
side.
it's worth pointing out he is explicitly a Satanist. Like, the real Aleister Crowley was like into some communing with the devil shit.
Yeah. So in
Sure.
Index, he's like
Look me up.
yeah, in Index he's like a dude floating upside down in a tube somewhere in the underbelly of Academy City, pulling the strings. He's like kind of one of the main, I guess, bad guys or whatever. But anyway, a bunch of people are trying to kill him or something, and then I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the most notable thing is somewhere in these groups we actually have 3 of the top 5 level 5 espers involved in this mess. Which
So is that like Bahamut and Ifrit Shield, right?
at the Final Fantasy espers, something like that. But it's also the first time we see the number 2 Esper, which I don't think we've ever seen him before. You guys can...
No,
I don't know if you guys
this
remember.
is his introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, so we meet... so quick recap on the 5 Espers, the level 5 Espers. We have 3 of them are in this. The two that aren't are the number 5, which is I can't remember her name. She's the blonde girl that does mind control, that goes to school.
Misaki Sokuho or something.
Is that
Yes, so she's
the,
number
like,
5.
Spiderweb stockings?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and the sparkly eyes.
Yes, so she's number 5, and she's not in this one. And Mikoto Misaka, the railgun herself, she's number 3. She's not in this arc. So in this one, we do see Mugino.
She's the crazy girl,
aka the... Yeah, so she was like she's the leader of Item, and they were kind of like the main bad guys of Railgun Season 2. She's like kind of Mikoto's sort of arch nemesis because they're kind of similar power levels. She shoots plasma lasers or something, I don't know, but she's kind of evil. So she's number 4. She's in this one because she's part of Item. And then we meet number 2 for the first time, who is what's his name, Kakine.
Yeah.
And he's a bad dude. He uses dark matter for his power, which I'm
Great.
still not fully understanding how they are applying it in the show, other than he gets like angel wings and can shoot lasers that Accelerator can't block. Yeah.
This is what it feels like when I'm talking about Fate being dumb.
Oh, I could do this for the rest of the podcast.
Since Accelerator's powers are literally meant to be he manipulates the laws of mathematics, how can anybody shoot lasers that he can't deflect?
So the explanation that's given is he can create dark matter, which dark matter is matter that doesn't really exist and therefore is not bound by the normal laws.
Yeah, I knew this. I knew when you said dark matter, I knew that's exactly where you were going. That type of bullshit ass explanation.
But
you see, Noble Phantasm is being impaled by the idea of space. Yeah, it's the exact same shit.
Oh yeah, it totally is.
So we meet.
They're both equally bullshit.
So we meet him for the first time as the leader of school, his organization, and of course Accelerator is number 1, the most powerful Esper. He's in here as well. He's somehow teamed up with Group. Also worth noting that we see Hamazura, who ends up being like the 4th protagonist.
Right, yeah.
And he actually like literally has no powers. He's like actually the everyman, and for some reason he's hanging out with Item in this arc.
Isn't he like their mule or some shit?
Yeah, he's like their driver basically, but he doesn't play a huge part in this one, but they're kind of ramping him up to be like the next protagonist. So we'll probably see more of him. But anyway, the whole thing was kind of a big mess. A lot of people died, but I guarantee they are not actually dead. This being the quote unquote dark side of Academy City, I feel like they were trying to be like super edgy, like at least by this show's standards.
Is there like a Kabuki-cho equivalent in Academy City?
Not really, no.
Okay.
It is like perfectly clean and lovely and wonderful, and and most of the inhabitants are meant to be students, which means that like there's no cool seedy red light districts or anything like that.
my favorite edgelord moment is for some reason Accelerator is running around with a gun in this arc because it's just cool. He likes to carry a gun and swear a
So
lot.
he's Shadow the Hedgehog?
Yes, he's basically Shadow the Hedgehog. And
The ultimate
at one
life
point,
form.
instead of shooting a guy, he shoots himself in the head Persona 3 style and uses his reflection power to like wrap the bullet around and shoot the guy instead of just straight up shooting him, because he's
I don't
a
know what you're
villain, and
talking
that's
about. It's the
villains do.
coolest thing ever.
So,
Garbage.
and then the arc does the arc is over. Like in episode 6, they wrap it up and it ends with a showdown between Accelerator and Kakine, which is kind of interesting. Of course, Accelerator figures out how to block his laser beams, dark matter laser beams that he's not supposed to block, and ends up kicking Kakine's ass, and we move on with our lives.
So,
and it'll probably be back to Toma next week. So
can I
good
play
time.
Next week is Aqua of the back. Yeah.
Yes, Aqua will be back to battling with God, the right seat of God, and the 2 remaining members.
So
Aqua in the back will be next, but yeah,
I'm going to play my favorite A Certain Magical Index game, which is, we're now in episode 6, right?
yes.
How long has it been since Index actually appeared?
She was in episode 1,
She was
right?
in episode 1, yes.
So 5 episodes.
Oh boy.
Well, I mean, Toma hasn't even been in the last 3, so it's
Yeah.
there's a lot.
Maybe I didn't miss that much.
Yeah. It'll be interesting I want to see what kind of ridiculous excuses they're going to come up with for how some of these characters are not dead, because I know they are. For example, I don't even think this is a huge spoiler, but Mugino takes like 3 bullets to the chest and is clearly dead. But I know she comes back later for sure in the series, so be interesting to see how they come up with that one. But it's that kind of show.
I mean, like, in a universe where you can like clone people to infinity and like the powers of God literally exist, like there are an infinite number of ways you could bring people back from the dead.
Coming back from
super
3 bullets
dead,
coming back from 3 bullets to the chest is not really that big a deal, I don't think.
No, I mean, like, you could even pull by the way, none of my vital organs were hit. Shit,
she
just
looked
hit her
pretty
implants.
dead. She looked pretty dead, but
I look pretty dead in the mornings too. Like eventually.
All right. Well, someday I'll have to get you guys to catch up on that and
We will, don't worry.
experience my.
You just have to wait for Iroh to go on another cruise or some shit.
Exactly.
Calling me out.
I mean, Iroh, you don't have to watch it with them.
I'm calling you out, you bourgeois shit.
We've already established that Index is better than the Fate universe, so I mean, it's.
Ooh,
Fuck off. They're equally dumb.
I'm not even sure I would say that, to be honest.
Maybe both sides are bad.
Or maybe they're all bad.
They are all bad.
Anyways,
I mean, the Fate universe has Carnival Phantasm and Today's Menu for the Emiya family, which, like, both of which are pretty good, I'm gonna say.
No, joking aside, the
True.
original Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero are probably better than anything in Index, but all the expanded universe stuff is.
Let's say that Fate Zero is better than anything. Let's not get into this. This one could run and run and run.
We could do an entire podcast about that, and maybe we will someday. But yeah. Anyways, moving along.
We already did.
No, I mean specifically the Index versus Fate debate.
Fine.
Sure,
But
sure.
anyways, let's move along. I did want to. I know we talked about Gridman last episode, but I want to kind of keep touching base with that since that's kind of the big show.
There is a lot to talk about. Like, there's more to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about, and it's kind of the big show that we're all watching. Yeah. So I want us all to have opportunity to talk about it. So, interestingly, the show does tend to air literally an hour before the podcast records. So we're getting super hot takes.
Not all seen the latest episode, but we will endeavor to talk.
Oh, right. Aqua, you have not seen episode 6, right? So
no, I have not. I was too busy baking cake.
Yeah.
So since we last talked, we had episode 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Episode 5 was kind of the pseudo beach, closest thing we're going to get to a beach episode.
Right.
Yeah. So can I
Um,
go first on this one?
Yeah, go ahead, Zig. Go for it.
So I think these two episodes, like, firstly, neither of these two episodes are bad, but I think they like represent the two most extreme variations between what people want from Gridman at this point and like what, you know, ugh, like they exist on different ends of the spectrum of what this show is. Like episode 5 is like a very straightforward, mostly like weird comedy come fan service episode. Like there's lots of extremely egregious fan service, which I was not a huge fan of at all. And like,
How's the foot?
We moved from
How's the foot
we moved from
discourse?
feet to butts. We went from feet to butts in
Still
episode
plenty
5.
of feet in this show. Let's be real.
like there's a cool monster, there's a neat battle, there's a new power up, but I was a little worried after episode 5 because it definitely felt like the most conventional the show has been in a while. Like they've got a pattern, like they did some fan service stuff. There was still some character work which was decent, but like they kind of abandoned their weird atmosphere building shit in favor of, you know, shots of girls in bikinis and stuff like that. Episode 6 is like the complete opposite of that. It's weird. It's incredibly weird. Like they
And it's great.
yeah, it's great. Like there's a renewed focus on like character building. They very smartly split up the main 3 characters and then pair each of them with a different character, and we get a lot of great like development through that. We get some insight into like the mystery which is driving the entire nature of this setup, you know, like just
The Inferno Cop theme shows up.
Inferno Cops theme shows up. They go and have coffee in a Starbucks whose sign is just a Zaku. You know, there's more weird Transformers references. But like in all seriousness, like episode 6 is like the furthest the show has gone in like the weird, bizarre, like atmosphere building style since maybe episode 1, and it's like the most heavy on the character development stuff it's been since episode 3, and in both cases I think that's much more interesting to me than episode 5. There's like Gridman does not appear in episode 6. There's no fight, there's no battle. Like they spend all that time on the character stuff instead, and it's really good. Like they even give like Sho, who has been like a complete non-entity up to this point, they even give him some interesting character development, which is encouraging because I was worried they were just going to toss him by the wayside pretty much. So like I was a little worried after 5, but they came back real strong with this latest episode.
I think what most impressed me was the way they were able to kind of info dump us on what's going on in a very interesting way that wasn't just necessarily the characters explaining it. Like we were talking earlier, the best part of the episode clearly was they were offering kind of an explanation of the situation by using these like PS1 era graphics, like 3D like terrible 3D graphics to like kind of illustrate, and you know, it wasn't actually happening. It was just kind of like a presentation thing for the audience, but like to kind of just show what was going on, and you know, that was really cool. And just I overall, I think the show really excels at, you know, the kind of more leaning towards the show don't tell type of storytelling that we all very much appreciate.
I mean, I would say that there is a solid amount of telling in this episode, but they conceal it in clever ways.
Right,
you know,
right.
like firstly, they trust the audience enough to make several conclusions themselves. You know, like they don't spell out every single detail, just the broad things. Thirdly, because they have the 3 separate characters here, they cut between them to establish interesting stuff. So like Yuta is mostly focusing on like the exposition plot heavy stuff, and then you have Sho, who's like doing his own character arc, and you have Rika, who's exploring Anti and that whole angle. And so like by effectively running these 3 parallel plot lines, it means the show never gets bogged down in like, okay, now we're just going to sit and talk for for like 5 or 6 minutes straight. Instead, like, they build the mystery effectively. They keep switching between the characters, and each of those characters like has something interesting to say and do.
And there's still some real good, like, Inferno Cop style, just like
Yeah.
jokes in the background and stuff.
There's
Like,
some great physical comedy, you know.
Yeah.
But like they also use that again. Like, this is an example of Trigger using their like incredible skill for something more than just like dudes punching dudes. You know, like that. Like you can see so much in the body language of the characters. You know, the way they shift, the way their faces move and stuff like that. You know, and again in the framing of the shots. Like G talks a lot about this when he's on. You know, but it shows that Trigger's visual mastery is more than skin deep. Like the way they compose the shots to like convey the emotion that they want is really fantastic, you know. And the fact that there's always something interesting visually happening makes the talking go down easier. And there's a lot of talking in this episode, but it's still really engaging. Yeah.
what he said.
And again, like, the reason we're not talking about episode 5 much is honestly not a great deal important happens. In fact, in retrospect, like the entirety of episode 5 is largely to set up like one plot point for episode 6, which, you know, I won't say straight up, but it's obvious
Right.
which one.
Yeah, and kind of armed with the knowledge we gain in episode 6 and some of the implications, I'm pretty excited to see like where they go.
I mean, I pointed out while we were watching is that there is a not zero chance that this is actually a sequel to the original Gridman instead of like a readaptation. Like, it is.
All right, so what are the odds of my prediction last episode that we're going to have a live action segment?
I would
that
say
would be so good, though.
higher now than they were last episode.
they have gotten higher since episode
I
6.
think that would be an
Yes.
incredible visual flourish. I'm not sure if you could get away with it, but like if that show just became men in rubber suits at some point, I would lose my mind.
I mean, it wouldn't have to be a very long segment, just kind of a one-off.
I mean, like, I still feel like live action Todomatsu showing up might be one of the funniest jokes in Osamatsu-san, period. So like I would be
Well,
I would be extremely into a live
speaking of men in rubber suits,
Yes.
Lupat's still been real good.
It has been extremely good. Like they've done the thing which Super Sentai occasionally fails to do, and actually like mapped out a plot arc for the Red Rangers. Like,
Right. For those not in the know, if you may not have listened to certain podcasts, we're talking about Lupinranger vs. Patranger, the currently airing Super Sentai show. Which, you still only watched the one episode, right, Joe?
Oh yeah, so are we going to should we slide into our Tokusatsu update?
Yes.
I think we've said everything there is to say about Gridman. You know, like, it's super interesting, but it's hard to analyze without knowing exactly where they go next, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
and we'll
like,
have we'll have plenty
have
of
lots more to
opportunity to. And Zig, you and G are still writing posts regularly for that as well.
G and
So
I will be doing weekly coverage, and like we get more in depth.
yeah, so we have plenty of opportunity to talk about that. So we can keep things moving here. Then, if you guys want to, I'll just turn the show over to you guys if you want to talk about your.
I mean, like,
I mean, there's not too much to say about Sentai shows.
yeah, like Lupinranger versus Patranger is still good. They're doing good work with like building, and like again in any Super Sentai show you're not going to get like, you know, incredible levels of character depth and development, but they're doing a good job of like building a relatable relationship between the two teams and like bringing them closer together in preparation for the moment when they will inevitably team up officially. Like, they've done it a few times now, but it's still very much they're at odds with each other, you know. The only other thing I'll say is that like they've gone a surprisingly long time like teasing a villain. Like, we're on episode 38 now, is it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And like the villain who has appeared in the opening credits since the first episode has appeared like 3 times in total. at this point.
Yeah.
So like I'm kind of surprised they've had the patience to hold out on that. It's
I feel like some of the toy seams are starting to show of like we'd spend a pretty large chunk in the middle of just like no new power-ups, and suddenly there's a ton.
This last
It has
episode
to do with the fact that toys are released seasonally,
Right.
right?
they
Yeah.
want
So you have a new wave of toys for like a couple of weeks, and then we just go back to filler stuff, wacky stuff.
and like that was especially noticeable on the last episode where it felt like they really had to shoehorn a plot line in to justify a power up, which is like a power up, by the way. Like the sixth ranger has missile launchers on his shoulders, and then he has handles on his shoulders that he has to hold himself to fire those missiles. It's dumb as hell. But I would say like occasional pacing issues aside, they've done very well with like adding a human dimension to all like the usual Sentai stuff, and I'm interested to see like as we come into the finale where they go with it, which is insane because we've got like another 10 episodes probably, so like 2.5 months worth.
Right.
No, but
on the other side of that is the bad Toku show.
Kamen Rider Zero is terrible. Like it's
so bad.
Guys,
You thought the acting in Lupat 1 was bad compared to the Gates in Zio.
He's so.
Oh my god.
That's some pretty that's a pretty bold claim, because I don't know if that's even possible.
He makes the Lupat guys look like a Laurence Olivier, for God's sake. So one of the major issues, so like in the latest episode as well, they brought back a super popular X-Aid character called Dan Kuroto, whose entire shtick is being like hammier than ham. Like you think you know everything about hammy acting, but when you see this guy, like it's like a whole universe of pork has exploded in front of you. And like against him you've got the guy who plays Gates, who has trouble like emoting on even a basic level, and they're both bad because like the guy playing Dan like overacts like crazy, and the guy playing Gates cannot act. So the net result is you have this horrible clash of like too much and not enough, and it's just a complete nightmare. It's like the acting is terrible, the story is awful, like the characters are ridiculous. Like our hero, the titular Kamen Rider Zio, is currently hanging out with Dan Kuroto, despite the fact that Dan Kuroto tried to kill a woman in front of his eyes, like right in front of him. He tried to kill this woman with his bare hands, and like Zio is like, hey, you seem like a cool guy. I think I'll hang out with you for a while because I'd like to learn how to be a ruthless despot as well. And it's just awful.
What?
Like.
What?
Yeah, that's totally correct.
His whole ambition is like, I want to become a king, and then two people come in from the future and they're like, guess what, you're gonna be the king of everything in the future, but you'll be a bad king, so we're gonna stop you. And he's like, no, don't stop me.
I still want to become a
king.
Yeah, it's weird. And like for the record, I'm absolutely certain 100% that it will be like, aha, I was pretending to be your ally all along so I could discover your weakness. But it's still like he still willingly threw in his lot with a murderer. Like it's an awful optic.
So then
and also like
on top of that, they still have to fit in all the because you said this is the one they're trying to fit all the old Kamen Riders in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is another problem, which is this last episode was meant to be dedicated to Kamen Rider O's, which was the 2010-2011 show. But because they got this guy,
have this X-Aid guy, yeah,
who was really popular because people. No, I won't say that. But he was really popular. Like he was like a mimetic dark horse,
right.
dark horse.
Except now this means X-Aid has shown up twice.
Yeah, and
everything else showed up once.
So they devote the whole episode to this guy, and like O's himself shows up for like 30 seconds at the end of the episode. And granted, we've got another episode to go, but on this arc. But like I said this in the thing I wrote, but it feels like Toei are telling you this show is more important than this show, which is the absolute kiss of death for something like this. Like you have to make sure you treat them all equally, because the idea is it's meant to be a celebration of everything. But like it definitely feels like they were like, well, we got this guy, so let's insert him into this plot and like shaft the people who enjoyed the show. And for the record, the people who enjoyed the show included me, because O's is a good show. Yeah, it's a total disaster. You know, on almost every level, it's a complete nightmare, a train wreck. Like, it doesn't even the suits and the fights aren't great, which is normally like the thing you can rely on Toei to be at least competent at, you know. But like, there's still way too much CGI. There's like the fights don't matter because you don't care about the characters involved. You know, like half the time the actual old riders don't even show up. Like, you don't get to see them transform or like see the original costumes or anything like that. And it still has all the time travel related problems where a bunch of stuff doesn't make sense, but you're kind of just expected to gloss over it.
Let me talk to myself on the phone across 6 years or something.
Yeah, it's even though like you were defeated in the past, so the timeline which led you to exist in the future should no longer exist. But it's it's absolutely terrible on every single, and like I feel like they're past the point where it can be saved now. You know, like there would be some hope if we could if the characters seemed at least likable or interesting, you know, but they're not. They're just the worst. And like, Kamen Rider's had a real problem in recent years with making interesting, likable protagonists, and they haven't solved that problem here. You know, like, they can't act. They're poorly written, which doesn't help with the aforementioned lack of acting. And I just want to see them all dead. You know, I want
Sounds great.
You know,
Wow. Harsh.
I mean, in this show, you might actually want the bad guys to win because, like, the twist is definitely gonna be that they're actually good guys.
Yeah, it's you know, at this point, I'm pretty much just watching to see the old riders show up. And
yeah,
like,
I mean,
I thought
we're
Guy
watching
would
for
show
the
up by now.
I
And,
believe
like-
I believe he's showing up in the arc after this.
Okay.
But
Guy, I feel like it's the only one I care about.
well, prepare to not care about him at all then, because yeah, no, it's stunningly awful, you know, and like the only reason I'm still following it is because of like some bizarre sense of bile fascination. But like we were not big fans of Kamen Rider Build, which was the show before this. In retrospect, that thing looks like a mark.
Wow.
Oh,
All right.
boy.
Well,
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
that is another show you're writing about regularly, so everyone can
For some reason, yes.
somehow for now. So everyone can stay tuned for more regular coverage on that. But yeah, sounds great.
yeah.
All right, so you guys want to do your periodic shout out to Pokemon Sun and Moon, which continues on
Still
for
good.
all eternity?
It's
Yeah,
still good.
I feel like the past few episodes have not been as fantastic as some of them have been, but there was that episode where they put on the school play, which was just
That episode was so good.
featuring cameo appearances from Lena Inverse, Ray Ayanami.
Is it
Hello Kitty.
is it still the 90s in Pokemon world?
Utena.
Is it
So,
Utena.
so basically, the quick stuff is they're doing a school play, and Team Rocket shows up to crash the school play. But
I'd like to point out, for the explicit reason, there is no reason other than the fact that Jessie cannot stand the idea that there is a play somewhere without her in it. So she shows up to like fucking ruin this school play.
right, and Jessie is voiced by Megumi Hashibara, and so
so
there's a like quick montage of like all the characters she has played.
So all-purpose cultural cat girl Nuku Nuku is there.
Wow.
Paprika is there. Like all of these like insane deep cuts, and then there's like a whole bunch of other anime references. There's like that. Was it the Charger Bug sequence that has a Gal Gaigar reference in it?
It's Gigantor.
Is it a Gigantor reference?
Yeah.
Sorry. There's the Revolutionary Girl Utena reference, which was sweeping around the internet for a while. You know, it's.
I mean, You haven't even mentioned the best part of that episode, which is the Pokemon playing themselves, wearing costumes of themselves.
Yeah.
That's right. I think it was no. I think you were right when you said it was the Pokemon. What's that mobile game? Pokemon
Quest.
where everything's boxy, and so like Pikachu comes out just wearing a boxy Pikachu outfit
Yeah.
as like their dumb way of
pretty
shouting
good.
out that game. I guess. I don't know.
There's that bit where like Ash dresses up as what's the name of that Pokemon? Like
Necrozma, yeah.
Necrozma, and like with Pikachu hidden in one of his legs, and to generate like to make Necrozma glow, he just has Pikachu like thundershock himself repeatedly. It's
The sequence where Pikachu grows giant by standing against the screen.
yeah, all that.
That show's so good.
It's still an extremely good show. Like it's so good at like the light comedy stuff that like it's astonishing that they didn't embrace this all along. There was the episode where like the professor has to maintain his mysterious secret identity as Royal Mask from his wife, which is really
His wife, who has like a bigger crush on Royal Mask than on him.
it's weird. It just remains like a delightful light comedy little thing, like they're like the animation remains as impressive as ever when they want to turn it on, which is obviously a limited amount of time because they're not making this thing with a huge budget. And like we're gearing up now to like enter the Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee stuff, because like an Eevee is on its way to Alola. So it'll be interesting to see whether they like transplant that gang back to Kanto where those shows are set, or whether they just play out a bunch of tangentially related stuff in Alola still.
That key art has Rock and Misty in it.
It does, yes, as well, and but also how. So,
yeah, I don't know.
And next episode, Team Rocket will probably acquire a Stuffle. So
Sure.
High stakes, high tension.
Exciting.
I mean, yeah, like it's
have we
so
talked about
low impact.
the Mimikyu yet?
I feel like we mentioned that last time, but there is a Mimikyu, a ghost type Pokemon, except this one is actually a ghost, so it is a ghost Pokemon. This is somehow a distinction which exists in this world.
It is just continues to be really fun, extremely low stakes, just like comfort food.
Like I think the thing that they worked out is like they did the Sentai thing where they realized if they treat everything super seriously, no matter how minor it is, it becomes way funnier. So like everything becomes like a matter of life and death. It's super funny and super clever and just a real good feel good show. I would encourage anybody to seek it out and watch it.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it.
Life, death, taxes, and Pokemon continues
Indeed.
on. All right.
And isekai shows, don't forget those.
I
don't know.
I feel like the isekai thing will, if not pass, die down eventually, but Pokemon will remain forever.
I mean,
Eventually, yes, but like the sun will burn out as well at some point. So,
Heat Death of the Universe.
yeah, all of that stuff.
By then, we can buy the 37th generation Pokemon game, Pokemon Empty Void of Space, on Pokemon Dark Matter.
I don't know. I was a big fan of Pokemon Global Apocalypse. Everything after that was just like a sellout, quite frankly.
Anyway, let's wrap it up then. We'll have to touch base with Pokemon and whatnot again later, but let's do our usual wrap-up housekeeping here. You can read everything we write at theglorioblog.com. Follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. We are on YouTube, where we post the podcast videos at some random URL because we need more subscribers for a real one. Please subscribe on our YouTube channel. And you can listen to our... the anime police are here for me. I gotta wrap this up. Fast. You can listen to our other podcast, Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, with Iro and G as they go through as they continue their journey through the Sea of Stars, watching Legend of the Galactic Heroes, the original OVA, which
Yeah, next episode's gonna be a big one. So
Yes, we just wrapped up the first season of that, so we're gonna kind of have a special episode happening next episode. So stay tuned next week for that. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Am I missing anything else? We're good. I think we're good.
No, officer, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to do. No, I didn't mean to insult Mr. Musk. I was just making a well-intentioned
Oh yes,
joke.
that's what it was.
No, I do accept his supremacy. Do not worry. Look, I have all these Grimes albums right here. I honor Mr. Musk, but sometimes you need to... No, officer. No, sorry, officer. No.
Well, if
Did
there's
you
no
see-
podcast, if there's no podcast in 2 weeks, you know what happened, folks. So that'll
Did
do
you
it.
see Grimes tweeted out the word hentai yesterday?
With no context.
I couldn't believe.
I'm trying to find it, but yeah. No,
All right.
sorry, it was quote, hentai is important.
Oh, is that why we talked about that in the beginning?
Oh, we need to go.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap this up. Good night, everyone.
Officer,
Thank you.
they're gonna get us.
Goodbye. I'm hitting the
35,000
I'm hitting the stop button.